Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Sean in Hawaii, and I thought I'd take a break today from reviewing motorcycle gear and $700 coffee makers and posting cute videos of my cat to take a look at knives, specifically everyday carry or EDC knives. When I was a kid, I often heard it said that every man should have a pocket knife with him at all times. These aren't weapons, they're tools. You never know when you're going to need to cut some string or rope or fabric or who knows what, but a knife is a handy thing, and a gentleman should never be without one. But when we say pocket knife, we were usually referring to a Barlow knife, a centuries-old design of compact folding knife, often teardrop-shaped or narrow and oblong, with one or two blades. Here's a rather large one with a very, very sharp blade and a nice wood handle. Usually the handles were made of bone or wood or maybe plastic like the Swiss Army knives. This mini Swiss Army knife has a small blade, a nail file, scissors, tweezer, toothpick. Well, this one's rusted shut, so it's going in the trash, but you get the idea. These are the original survival knives, usually with a very sharp stainless steel blade that legend has it you could use for a scalpel if you had to do an emergency tracheotomy or field appendectomy, or I don't know, I've never had to perform emergency surgery with a Swiss Army knife, but I suppose you could if you had to, and I suppose you could call that a survival knife. All the essentials: bottle opener, corkscrew, fish scaler, maybe even a magnifying glass, a dozen or more blades on some of them. But really, if you're going camping or hunting or hiking, you would want to bring something like this. This is a fixed blade knife, or this style is often called a Bowie knife or Jim Bowie. And true Bowie knives are actually much bigger than this. This particular Bowie knife I bought 40 years ago at an Army-Navy store in Ontario, California. I think I paid about $32, which was a lot of money for a teenager in 1981. This is an American-made hunting knife by Case Knife Company. Very shiny, beautiful stainless steel you could use for a signal mirror if you had to. Has some jimping on the blade and a leather-wrapped aluminum handle. You get a good grip. I have actually used this knife to cut firewood down into kindling and shavings to start a fire. You could skin a buck with this knife. I've never done it, but I'm sure you could. It's razor sharp and holds an edge really well. It's very strong. That, to me, is what I consider a survival knife. If you don't want to wear something on your belt that's 8 or 9 inches long or even longer, then you got a folding hunter. This is the quintessential folding hunter, the Buck 110. Okay, really this isn't a Buck 110. This is the Schrade Uncle Henry LB7. But this is a vintage US-made Uncle Henry lockback hunter, the original copy of the original quintessential folding hunter. I've owned both knives, and if not for the name engraved on the blade, you would not be able to tell them apart. It's an identical copy. Schrade was an American company until they went belly up in 2004. In 2005, the name and designs were bought by a Chinese company, and Schrade knives made after 2005 are made in China. But this is a sturdy, sturdy knife. It's almost as sturdy as the fixed blade knives. It has a 3 3/4 inch blade, satin finish, razor sharp, made of very good steel. It's very strong. It's a lockback, so it's really secure, really safe. And this knife is heavy. It has solid brass bolsters with rosewood inlaid handle. The frame is solid brass with these rosewood scales attached with brass and steel rivets. The knife is a work of art. It's a thing of beauty, and it could save your life. I have taken this knife into the wilderness, wading through streams and waist-high snowdrifts. I've used it to shave branches down to kindling to build a fire, but it's heavy. It's very thick. It's a big knife that you can keep it in your pocket. I know, I have for years, but you know it's there. People usually carry it on their belt in a leather holster that comes with it. I didn't want that for every day. I decided I wanted something thinner and lighter, something more modern to clip on my belt or tuck into my pocket. So I got the Smith Wesson Extreme Ops. It was on sale, super cheap at the Navy Exchange. It has a glass breaker and a seatbelt cutter. I don't know how good the seatbelt cutter is. I've cut some nylon straps off of crates, but I'm not sure how good it would be on webbing. but it has a really nice rubber-coated grip with a great feel to it. Unfortunately, after several months of carrying it around in the tropical heat, that rubber became sticky and started to rub off. I had to remove what remained with a Clorox wipe. It was a huge hassle. But underneath that rubber, it's painted black aluminum. It's textured, so it still has a decent grip, but it doesn't have that wonderful tactile feel, which is what attracted me to this knife in the first place. You can easily open it and close it with one hand. Clip it on your belt, slide it in your pocket, and if you're stuck in your car sinking into the river, you can cut yourself free from your seatbelt and smash the glass. But this is not a knife I trust with my life. It's not the knife I hoped it would be. But it's a good $12 knife. Unfortunately, it's not a $12 knife, it's a $26 knife. And it doesn't compare to the $26 cold steel Pro Lite Sport, which we'll talk about in a minute. I mean, it's got some good features. It's got the glass breaker, a partially serrated blade, this mock reverse Tonto blade with a crappy edge. I got so frustrated with it, I finally just ran it through a kitchen knife sharpener that had a special diamond wheel that puts a whole new edge on it. Looks like junk now, but it's nice and sharp. It's great for cutting open boxes, breaking down boxes, opening my mail. This has a 3.3-inch blade, just under 3.5 inches. It's a good size, a little big for some. Maybe not legal to carry in some areas, so check your local laws. I think it's a good size. It has a nice feel in my hand. It's easy to open and close with one hand. It's really not a bad knife. It's just not a particularly good knife. It has a nice low-profile, deep carry pocket clip. Fits all the way in your pocket without sticking out, but it's easy to reach in and grab. It's got a thumb stud. It's got a partially serrated blade with a black finish. The blade is 7CR17 MOV high carbon steel, just under 3.5 inches. It's really not a bad knife to take to the work site, and you're not afraid to lose it or damage it. It's just not something I would want to depend on in the wilderness. When I worked in a shipyard, this would have been perfect. If you're a first responder, an EMT, fire and rescue, law enforcement, this is not the knife for you. Spend the extra money if people's lives may depend on it one day. And that brings me to the Cold Steel Pro Lite Sport. I decided I was not happy with the Extreme Ops, obviously. So I got another 3.5-inch knife. Cold Steel is an American company. They're making their budget knives in China, but the blade is German cryo-steel. A 3.5-inch flat ground drop point blade. Stonewash finish that will stand up to serious use and still look good. It weighs 3.2 ounces, which is pretty light for a knife of this size. This handle is made of fiberglass reinforced nylon, also called glass-filled nylon. It's a wonderful material for a budget knife. This stuff is virtually indestructible. It doesn't even have a liner. It's just two pieces of fiberglass reinforced nylon with a metal spacer. That's the lockback mechanism. This knife is just 10 times the knife that Smith Wesson will ever be. And I've owned a lot of knives, dozens of knives in my life. And this is the sharpest knife straight out of the box that I have ever seen. Here's some junk mail I got today. It's cardstock. It's not plain paper. It's pretty thick. And this German cryo-steel, ice quenched, shredded it. It's a flat grind. It's not a flipper. No thumb stud. It's got a small cutout. I guess if you practice, you can open it one-handed well enough. But that wasn't what I was shopping for at the time. If there is one thing that some people don't like, it's the triad lockback mechanism. People say it's too difficult to open. It's too stiff. That's actually a good thing. I mean, that's what makes it safer. This can be a work knife. This can be a survival knife. I would take this knife out into the wilderness. This knife I trust. It has a sort of a deep carry pocket clip. Well, not really. But it's reversible, left or right hand carry, tip up only. This is one hell of a knife for $26. I bought this one online from Blade HQ. I'm not sponsored by them or anybody. They don't give me a kickback for mentioning their name. They don't even know I'm dropping their name. I don't get ad revenue from my videos. I paid full price for all of these knives. Nobody endorses me. I don't make any money off these videos. I just do it because I do a lot of research whenever I buy something, and I love to talk about it, share what I learned. I bought the next knife I'm going to show you from White Mountain Knives, and they were awesome too. I highly recommend both Blade HQ and White Mountain Knives. I can't say enough good things about them. The Pro Lite Sport from Cold Steel. It's a magnificent knife. On sale now for $23. That's incredible. But they've been discontinued and they're going fast. So if you want one, you better hurry up and grab it. It has a groove cut into the top of the blade so you can get a grip if you're tracing out a pattern on fabric or leather or tin. You can do fine work with this strong razor sharp blade. This is just a great knife, but it's not pretty. No one is going to ask you, where did you get that knife? Or, hey, let me see that. But you know that you have an outstanding, solid tool in your pocket or bag. Then I decided I wanted to go another way entirely. I wanted something smaller, more discreet. I want a gentleman's knife, not a piece of jewelry, a real knife I can use every day and depend on, but something that looks more like something that I want to show people. This is the Feldspar made by CJRB, an American company that's making its budget line of knives in China to make them less expensive. This handle material is called G10. It's similar to carbon fiber and micarta. It's somewhere in between the two. It's fiberglass cloth impregnated with resin and layered, fused together under intense heat and pressure. It's similar to carbon fiber, only with fiberglass instead of carbon. And of course, micarta is made from natural fibers like cotton canvas or burlap or linen, impregnated with resin and baked under pressure. Micarta has been in use for more than a century. It's strong and does not conduct electricity at all. It's what they make printed circuit boards out of. That's micarta. This is not micarta. This is G10. And for a $36 knife, G10 is a nice surprise. There are a few of them out there in this range, but it's not that common. This knife also has a blade made of D2 steel. D2 is a Chinese tool steel. It's not a super steel like you would find on a $150 knife, but for $36, it's actually pretty luxurious. It's not stainless like the vintage knives I showed you, but it is very resistant to corrosion and it holds an edge. It has a durable stonewash finish, flat ground, drop 0.3-inch blade. This knife weighs 2.62 ounces, which is pretty light, and it's a liner lock with a thumb stud. Now the downside. There's two things I don't like about this knife. I love that it has ceramic bearings and it's got this beautiful brass collar around the pin, and but you flick the thumb stud and it's supposed to have this great action. I see all these videos where people are just flipping them effortlessly and they snap open in the blink of an eye. Not this one. Now, I just bought this knife and I haven't really broken it in, but right out of the box, the detent on this particular knife is so strong I can't flip it open. I almost need both hands to open it. The whole idea was I wanted a knife I could snap open with one hand, and this is just too difficult to open. I really wanted to love this knife, but it seems there's some inconsistencies in the quality control, and not every Feldspar that rolls off the line is perfect. I thought the look of the grind of the metal is not quite perfect, but for $36, really this is spectacular quality. There are other budget knives out there with D2 steel and G10 handles. The Ontario Rat 2, another American knife maker. The Rat 2 is a 3-inch blade as opposed to the Rat 1, which is 3.5. And that knife is now available with a D2 blade and G10. But when you add those options, the so-called R2D2 sells for around, I think, $62, which puts it out of the price range of this comparison. The Ontario Rat 2, it's a really nice knife. I'm hearing a lot of great things about it, but it is more expensive if you want these materials. With the Feldspar, for $36, I'm getting the upgraded materials in the blade and scales. I really like this G10 material. Like the Elementum, the Feldspar comes in a variety of colors. This one is the natural color G10. It's not dyed. It's translucent. It looks like jade. You can sort of see the embedded liner, which is another nice feature for a knife of this price. The liner has been drilled to reduce weight, so it's a really nice knife, and the handle is contoured and lightly textured. It fits in your hand. It feels really solid. The Elementum, on the other hand, has a flat, richly textured scale on both in bold colors. A great thing about the G10 on either knife is if it gets wet or it gets a little oil on it, you still keep a good grip on it. It's resistant to heat, it's fairly tough. It's not indestructible like the fiberglass reinforced nylon on the cold steel, but it's pretty durable. Lite is a knife you can hammer on. I wouldn't do that with a Feldspar. But this is a knife you can use every day. It's a working man's knife or working woman's knife. I just wasn't impressed with the action. Now, the other thing I didn't like about this knife, it comes in a large with a 3.5-inch blade, and this is the small Feldspar with a 3-inch blade, but both knives have the same pocket clip. And on the smaller knife, it just feels a little intrusive in my small hand. I don't like it. It just doesn't feel right. So for me, that's 2 strikes against it. But a lot of people are really loving the Feldspar, so I don't want to discourage anyone who may be thinking about getting it. It's a great knife overall, and people are raving about it. So I don't want to give the impression that it's not a fantastic knife for $36. It has a good grip. There's no jimping on the blade, but I can still keep a pretty good grip. It feels secure in my hand. I don't feel like it's going to slip. It has a liner lock, which is very convenient, but I just wanted something a little more fancy. So I bought the Civivi Elementum. I actually bought both these knives at around the same time. I bought the Civivi in purple for my girlfriend so she'd keep it in her purse or use it when she's working on her boat or crafting projects, and I bought the Feldspar for me. I think they spent the extra $15 on the packaging. This is really deluxe. Look at this beautiful case with a polishing cloth and this fleece-lined nylon zipper case that I'm never going to use. The Feldspar and the Elementum, they're about the same size, more or less. Both have a lanyard hole. Now, maybe the idea of putting a lanyard on a knife sounds silly to some of you, but if you're a roofer or you work on a high-rise, or maybe you're on a sailboat or rock climbing and you want a lanyard, you don't want to drop your $50 knife into the ocean or down into the chasm below, and now you're up there without a knife. A lanyard can be a really good idea. Like the Feldspar, the Elementum has a deep carry clip. It's not reversible, it is where it is. It seems like maybe a lower profile, but it just doesn't feel as intrusive as the Feldspar. Maybe it's the flat scales. It's a flipper. It's really nice action. Everything about the Elementum just feels top quality. I found myself wishing I'd bought one for myself. So I did. I ordered an Elementum for myself as well, and I'm returning the Feldspar. The Elementum has a satin finish blade. The Feldspar and the Lite both have stonewash blades, which is a very durable finish. It doesn't show wear as readily. The Civivi has a more traditional look, like my Uncle Henry with that beautiful satin blade. It's a beautiful knife, and it's sharp. Not crazy, stupid sharp like the cold steel, but none of these knives are dull. Like it's shredding the cardstock again. So my pick is the Civivi Elementum. But again, the Elementum is a $50 knife and the Feldspar is $36. That needs to be taken into account. And on the majority of Feldspars coming off the production line, apparently people are saying the action is just beautiful. But on the one that they sent me, the detent is so stiff that I can't flick it open easily. The detent is the little friction zone where the locking mechanism is putting tension on the blade, holding it closed, and it's a lot firmer than I like. I can still open it with one hand, but it's difficult. The handle on the Elementum is perfectly flat and it fits in your pocket really well. They're pretty close, actually, but the Feldspar may be a tad thicker with the contoured scales. This Elementum is a luxurious knife. This is a gentleman's knife. Well, in purple, it's more of a lady's knife. I like it so much, I decided I wanted one too. I didn't want a purple one, and the black and blue ones are selling out fast, and sometimes they're hard to find. They're out there, but I ordered this. It just arrived today. I got mine in micarta. The Elementum with the micarta handle just has the look and feel of a much more expensive knife. This is the dark green. It also comes in an olive finish in micarta, which is almost khaki. I like that it's a flipper, satin finish blade, just under 3 inches, which may help with legality issues in some places. Also, the shape of the blade is less threatening. The Feldspar looks more aggressive, almost like a tactical knife. In a situation where security or law enforcement are determining whether you are carrying a weapon or a tool, the Elementum may get a pass. So that's my take. The CJRB Feldspar is a really great knife for $36. If you want a work knife that's a little bigger, that you can just beat the hell out of, and might save your life, go with the Pro Lite from Cold Steel. It's indestructible. It's almost as sturdy as the Buck 110 or my vintage Uncle Henry, but so much lighter and thinner. It just clips on your belt, fits discreetly in your pocket. It's a lot easier to carry around. But personally, I'm going with the Civivi Elementum. I bought this one from Amazon. Yeah, I know, but they had what I wanted when I wanted it, and they shipped it fast. The Feldspar I bought from White Mountain Knives. They were just amazing. I told them I didn't love it, so they sent me a prepaid return label, no questions asked. I got the Pro Lite from Blade HQ. Both are a pleasure to deal with. Fast shipping, great service. And remember, I'm not getting a kickback from any of these companies. I'm just giving you my opinion. I paid full price for these knives. I'm just doing a review for the pure joy of it. And if you stuck with it to the end, thank you very much. Remember, it costs you nothing to give a like. Feel free to subscribe. No pressure. And please be safe out there. Remember, a knife is not a toy. Oh, look at that. The micarta handle matches my tablecloth. What do you know?